Next we're going to make the player object. And objects are the most important asset in GameMaker. It's where other assets come together and you actually code the behavior of that element in the game. So we're going to go to Objects, Create Object, and we're going to give it a name, player_1. That's just in case later on we decide to make player2. And we're going to select the sprite for that object by clicking on this little menu box here, and we've only got one sprite, so we're going to select that. And we've got a few parameters here, visible, which is self-explanatory, and solid. We need to set to solid so that the collision mask works. We're not using any physics on here, so that remains unchecked. Persistent, we'll uncheck that, and what that refers to is whether an object is persistent throughout the levels of the game, so it exists in all the levels. We don't need to deal with that with this game. And then we have depth, and this is how GameMaker deals with drawing the graphics in the game. So depth is like layers in Photoshop. 0 is the very top layer, and then I think it goes down to like 1,000. So if you want to draw something underneath, say for instance this object, then it would need a greater depth than 0, which we'll do later on when we code some other stuff. Then we have parents and masks. These are collision masks that we looked at earlier, and it's the same as the sprite, so we don't need to change that. And in the parent, it allows you to create child objects of a particular other object, so that they basically behave in exactly the same way as the parent. We're not going to deal with that at the moment. So then we move on to the events and actions, and this is the kind of where we do the coding. So events are things that trigger other stuff to happen. We're going to code the movement for the player object. So what's going to happen is we're going to press keys on the keyboard, and that will move the object around the screen. And first of all, we need to select an event for that. And if you right click in the events window, you click on add event, and then it brings up a list of events you can use. I'm going to deal with these as we come across them. So to create our keyboard movement, we're going to use a step event. And a step event is something that triggers and or happens every step of the game. And a step is, in GameMaker terms, for basically a frame of the game. So you can think of it like video. So the most smallest increment of time in the game. And in this game, currently, it's set to 30 frames a second or 30 steps a second. So every 30 times a second, it will do this thing. So we click on step. By the way, you can change the frame rate of the game to whatever you want. Obviously, the faster it is, the more it kind of taxes the CPU. And 30 to about 60 is fine. If you want to get, I suppose, retro, old school kind of low frame rate, you could set it low if you wanted. Once you've clicked on step, there are three options here: step, begin step, and end step. Step is something obviously that's happening every frame of this, for the game. Begin step starts or prioritizes this particular event first, and then end step obviously it happens afterwards, so it's got the end priority. Ours is just a standard step we're going to use for our keyboard commands. So click on step. So now we have our step event. So this is going to happen every frame of the game. Now what we want to happen is movement, and on the right hand side here you can see we have these icons, and these are the dragging and drop coding system. We're going to avoid this where possible, because what I want to do is get into the actual writing in GML script, which is the language that GameMaker uses, because it's a lot more flexible, and also it will teach you things that when you come to make more complex games you'll need to know, because these only go so far. So we're going to ignore all this and go to where has it gone? Control on this tab here, and there's a little icon with a paper sheet with writing on it. That's code. So we click on that, hold down the mouse button and drag it into the actions window, and this brings up the coding window.